I also plead the indulgence of the chairman and the special guest of honor to stand on the existing protocol. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I came into journalism about the season when Dr. Kolade was shedding his second professional skin. He was leaving the public sector broadcasting for the private sector, the organized private sector. It was quite unusual then that a man in top position as he was, whose career was not threatened, would be willing to vacate a secured public sector top-level job for the uncertainty and the untested waters of the private sector. This was the first thing, apart from being in the same media, that really attracted me to Dr. Kolade. Years later, that's exactly 21 years ago, in January 1992, I had the exceptional privilege of meeting and forming an acquaintance with an ex-head of state. I suggested a business idea to this ex-military head of state. He thought it was a good idea, but he said he was already in discussion on the same idea with Dr. Kolade, Engineer Vincent Maduka, and Mr. Teju Oyeleye. And that if the three gentlemen agreed, I could join the team. Luckily, they agreed, and we registered a company called Range Network as a broadcasting outfit. As it turned out, the people around the ruling military president, or maybe the military president himself, thought it was not a very brilliant idea to give a media musket and dry powder guns to a man who was already raising many uncomfortable issues about governance. Long story short, Range Network never saw the light of day because the power that be didn't think Range should get a license. But the relationship lasted long enough for me to form a much more personal and private opinion about the person of Dr. Kolade and other members of the promoters. I began to think and see him as a mentor and someone who has a story to tell, but which was waiting to be told. About 12 years ago or thereabout, we had a crisis at Cornerstone Insurance PLC. We lost our young and dynamic founding managing director. In the confusion and desolation that followed, we thought of who to invite to set our thinking right again. Yes, you guessed right, Dr. Christopher Kolade. That retreat helped in no small way to stabilize the drifting Cornerstone. But I got a bit more. I observed that when Dr. Kolade came to the retreat, he came with his laptop and he came with his presentation gadgets. As usual, he got there very early, all the way from Obudu to Akodo. In a flash, he set up his presentation, complete with a remote slide changer. I was sold on the man. You will be impressed if you recalled that at this time, around about the year 2000, the PowerPoint as a presentation tool was new in the market. But Dr. Kolade, close to 70 years old, was already far ahead of us in using these new gadgets to make his presentation. Then 4 years ago, Dr. Christopher Kolade pointed me in the direction of SMC and kindly introduced me to Professor Biakolo. In the period, I have gone from an adjunct fellow at the school to become a senior fellow and a director of a center. These are just short points to indicate the kind of person that I found in the man, Dr. Christopher Kolade. And I decided, and I approached him, that we should do a biography on him. Because at that time, we had realized that most Nigerians were not telling their stories. Or if they were, it was not being heard. We did not set out to publish Kolade's canon. The volumes were a publishing accident. While we were researching and working on his biography to coincide with his 80th birthday celebration late last year, we kept getting materials from him to supplement the interviews that we had done. And in reading through the materials, they were so rich that no matter what excerpt you made from them, you will still not be doing justice to them. Then I approached Dr. Kolade and said, "Sir, can we do a book on this?" And he said, "Why not?" Yes, we thought that we had materials for one book. Then we thought 2 books. And what came out were 3 fantastic books, if I must say so myself. At the moment, and in Nigeria, the sad story is that nobody is telling our story. Politics and aliens are telling our story in their own way. The question is that our collective thought forms are not sufficiently developed to produce and promote the telling of our own stories ourselves. Until we begin to tell our story, the Nigerian story, we can never really possess our future. Charles Handy said, "The future is something to be welcomed because it can be shaped by us." Right now, we cannot say we welcome the future. Many of us are apprehensive about the future. And that's because we're not telling our story. And because rather than shape the future is shaping us. We think that by telling the Kolade story, which is a book yet to come, we're still working on that. And these volumes that we are presenting today, Nigeria and Nigerians will be able to read and have something that they can be proud of. Because across Nigeria at this moment, there are stories waiting to be told. Multiple stories waiting to be told. A friend of mine came from South Africa the other day and said that on Nelson Mandela alone, there are over 120 titles on him. As we speak here tonight, this morning, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo is here. I don't think that we have written enough about him. As we sit here this morning, many of us don't have definitive stories about Ahmadu Bello. We know very little about somebody like S.L. Akintola. We know only what Awolowo told us about himself. There are stories to be told about the leadership of this nation and what brought us to where we are. If you check the internet, Al Jazeera videos on the YouTube, they have more clips on Nigeria than all the NTA stations in the country put together. We are not telling our story. Egyptians, Indian, British, the Ghanaians, they have a worldview. The question is, do we as Nigerians have a worldview? Nigerians are the remarkable people. And today we are celebrating one of them, the person of Dr. Christopher Kolade. There are several remarkable Nigerians whose stories have not been told. Our reason for engaging in publishing the Canons was because we believe that in telling his story, we will be adding our voice to trying to define the nation that we call Nigeria. If you look into our classrooms, many of our case studies and classic examples are foreign. They neither talk to our needs, nor do they represent our culture. Publishing Dr. Kolade's Canon is a charge and a challenge. Everyone here has a story to tell, an authentic Nigerian story. Everyone here can influence culture. History will yet prove the significance of Ikiebe's recent book, There Was a Country. If the animated discussions that have followed it is anything to go by, rethinking Nigeria and Biafra may produce a new Nigeria for better or for worse. Politics do not change a country. Politicians cannot change a country. Culture does. And the time for us to actively engage our culture is now. I know that on the program there is room for thanks to be given to various people who played a part. But I'd like to do my bit because it was not a one-man effort. I may have been credited with editing these 3 volumes, but every editor knows that no work in the media is the work of one man or one woman. I was fortunate to have with me hard-working and committed friends and colleagues at work. It is to them that I must give credit. People like Taiwo Obe, Anuli Agena, Ifeanyi Omena. Ifeanyi is here this morning. Where is she? Fine. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. These 3 provided with, for me, a formidable editorial team. I also had Isa Momo, who is here this morning. My Oga at the top. Professor Biakolo. Very soon he will get up to say whatever he wants to say about these books. Just remember that he's my Oga at the top. I must not fail to mention Dr. Suleiman, who implicitly believed in this work and supported it wholeheartedly and urged Cornerstone to do the same. I thank you, sir. And I think the MD of Cornerstone, Ganil Musa, is here. Thank you very much. I cannot forget my friend Oke Nelama, who held my feet to the fire until money dropped from his pockets. I thank Dick Kramer, who encouraged him to let go of my feet and put the money on the table. Dr. Suleiman and Dick Kramer were not only supportive, they were full of encouragements and suggestions on how we can raise further funds if required. When we missed the 80th birthday deadline, I was at loss, but Dr. and Dick cheered me on and proposed that we should launch the books this way. I must also thank two good professors, the Vice Chancellor of the Pan-African University, Professor Yohan Elido. He's an unusual university administrator with an open door. I never cease marveling. Anytime I pass by his office, he has a clean table. Very, very clean table. I don't know how he does it. He has an unusual speed, and he follows through on a matter when it is presented to him. As I said, I thank Professor Biakolo, my friend, who also gave me ample time and suggestion about this book. Please listen to him carefully, by the way. The man speaks English and writes it better than most English people. So he may be saying one thing and he may be understanding something else. When he is true, I must accept the blame and I must surrender all the applause to the wonderful team that I was fortunate to work with. In this light also, I'd like to mention Obinna Ojekwe, very hard-working young man, Precious Mogoli, Deji Apodude, Sam Nyobosa, and several others who assisted. Finally, I'd like to thank my wife, Joy. She's right here. Her encouragement, her prayer, her generosity and patience has made this day possible. Without her approval for us as Band House to use funds from our family foundation to jumpstart this project, we would not have been here this morning. So, my dear wife, I thank you. And lastly, I'd like to thank God. He makes all things possible. Thank you very much. God bless you.